Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. I have been waiting for 12 months to run back this game. Michigan State going on the road to Ann Arbor, 7:30, a blowout game at night. I'm interested to see what that looks like. But the place is going to be absolutely buzzing. And after the loss last year in East Lansing, this Michigan team is looking to, I think, just dominate. And
They better be ready to just pound them into the ground, that's for sure.
Jim Harbaugh has been waiting for this for 12. You see the preseason interviews. It's beat Ohio State, beat Michigan State, win a Big Ten title. Like Michigan State's been circled for 12 months. This is going to be a very fun game, especially if you're a Michigan fan. Before we get into it, though, again, just wanted to say thank you guys for all the support you guys have shown the channel. Again, the Michigan fans, you've been awesome. You know we rock with Michigan. We talk a lot of Michigan. So if you do like talking some Michigan football, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, we really do appreciate all the support. 2,000 subscribers. Absolutely insane. Dill, I'm going to start with you. What are your early takes here on this game?
Yeah, I mean, last year, obviously, Michigan State kind of ruined the storybook season for the Wolverines, coming back, winning the Big Ten, winning against Ohio State, kind of checking all the boxes that Harbaugh hadn't checked off. But it's still like, yeah, that game, I know everything else was great, but that still hurts. Like, it's still a big rivalry. You still always want to beat Michigan State. So I kind of hope Michigan is very much in the mode of we're going to beat them by 50 points and we're not pulling the dogs off until like the last drive in the fourth quarter. That's kind of what I want to see.
Yeah, and the line is sitting at 20.5 points. Like Michigan is a very, very heavy favorite. And I don't even hate, like I don't like taking long lines like that. But I really do think you might see Michigan get out ahead and just really stomp them into the ground. I think that's what their goal is. What I'm most excited for is, Dill, you talked about it. Talking about this Michigan offense. Where has J.J. McCarthy been the most confident? Kind of in those play action rollouts. He's very, very good throwing on the run. And Michigan has the best, or at least one of the best, rushing attacks in the country. Blake Corum, you guys know what he's doing. Donovan Edwards finally getting healthy. Looked absolutely awesome against Penn State. What's the biggest thing is we haven't really seen that J.J. McCarthy connection downfield. He's missed a few throws. That's probably the one thing from this Michigan offense that he's missing. Like for as much as JJ's taken some heat for missing some throws, he's still completing 77% of his balls, 9 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He's getting it done on the ground. Michigan State has one of the worst secondaries in the whole entire country. I'm looking for JJ to kind of have a breakout 300-plus yard game and really kind of put this team on his back on Saturday.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I want to see JJ. Like, I think Indiana was kind of the first game he really kind of won for us. We weren't running the ball that great. Indiana was very much trying to stop it. And JJ put up over 300 and looked really, really good throughout the game. But again, I think you want to see a wire-to-wire game where JJ is just dominating this team. And I mean, if we can run the ball like we did against Penn State, like, yeah, I don't necessarily want to throw it because what's the point? You run the ball for 400 plus. You run the ball. Like, I don't want to get like Josh Gaddis where you're forcing yourself to do things that aren't you to be your offense. Like that's, I think sometimes what Michigan used to do when they had Gaddis was we'd get in modes where you want to run the ball and you just only run the ball, or you want to pass and you only pass. So I don't want to see us revert back to that where we're doing things that don't work just for the sake of doing it, it felt like. But I do want to see JJ have a really good game. And I think this is a secondary, obviously, you mentioned we should be able to torch.
And this is the secondary to kind of get that confidence for JJ, especially pushing the ball down the field. Because I do. JJ McCarthy, if you're a Michigan fan, you know he's one of the most confident kids in his ability out there. That being said, I do think his confidence pushing the ball downfield is a little shaken after he's had 6 or 7 shots at it. He's really only hit like 1 or 2. And so getting him some rhythm, and like when you think about what Michigan needs to do to beat a team like Ohio State to make a run in the college football playoffs, those explosive plays, we talk about it all the time. One of the most important metrics for an offense is hitting those explosive plays. As good as JJ has been in those short and intermediate throws, you see it with the almost 80% completion percentage. You got to hit those explosive plays.
I mean, if you look at the first half of Penn State, we didn't hit any explosive plays really and only scored – we scored a lot of points. What was it, 16? But then you get to the second half, you have 2 50-plus yard rushing touchdowns. We scored many more points, and if they wanted to keep scoring, they would have kept scoring. So I think that does highlight how bad Michigan kind of needs to be able to have some explosiveness, because when you're constantly in red zone situations, that's when it gets really hard to score touchdowns. So if you can just throw in a couple of big explosive plays, and again, Michigan should have the horses to do it with the guys like Ronnie Bell and Cornelius Johnson athletic.
Roman Wilson. I want to see Roman Wilson.
Guys who can run and who are big and versatile, big play wideouts. So I want to see more of that. I want to be able to see us get those guys loose for big touchdowns, and because I do think that adds an element that would make Michigan almost unstoppable.
Yeah, and what you saw against Penn State 2 weeks ago was incredible. The only knock you have on that game is red zone efficiency. I mean, kicking way too many field goals. That's another thing you want to see against Michigan State. Like we're going to move the ball on Michigan State, score touchdowns in the red zone, because you're going to need to do that again if you want to beat Ohio State. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I was in the pre-show, I was trying to think, where does Michigan State have an edge on Michigan? And thinking back to last year, even last year, there wasn't many edges where, like, Michigan State, they have the advantage. The only edge they had was Kenneth Walker. They just turn around, they would give the ball to Kenneth Walker, and he made some insane runs to kind of keep Michigan State in the game, and then Michigan just did not close the football game.
Michigan got out of what they were doing. Like, they were throwing the ball a lot, working really well, and they kind of sat it down in the fourth quarter. We didn't score any points. It's like, again, it's just things like that. You can't have it, and I'm kind of like, I don't think we've seen it much this year. I think we've seen moments where the offense was out of rhythm, but it seems like eventually they switched the game plan. Like Indiana switched the game plan through a lot. Obviously went out and routed them in the second half. So I like that Michigan's gotten away from a little bit of that sort of style where they weren't closing games out. They were allowing teams to crawl back in because they weren't scoring. You think back to the Rutgers game of last year, that was horrific. Like, just things like that they were doing. So I don't want to see the reversion to that. But again, I don't think that, I just don't see how this game's close.
On the flip side, and I guess we're taking it a more of an approach of what do we want to see out of Michigan heading into the second half of the season. On defense, the defense has been phenomenal. You look at what Michigan has done, only allowing 2.9 yards per carry, especially against Penn State with two very, very good young running backs. Michigan was pretty much shut down. They've been very, very good in the passing game too, only allowing 52% completion percentage for opposing quarterbacks. Like, this Michigan defense, you're seeing really hit its stride with this new defensive scheme. You're seeing a lot more exotic blitzes, zone coverages, which is, it's just so fun to watch after we saw just man coverage blitzes with Don Brown pretty much exclusively. The one thing that I think is missing from this Michigan defense is turnovers. When you're able to get pressure on the quarterback as consistently as Michigan is, Mike Morris, Yabi Oki, Mozzie Smith, Braden McGregor, Jalen Harrell, you got to force some turnovers. We're only averaging one turnover forced per game. We've had our hands on multiple balls. We just really can't make the play. DJ Turner's had a couple chances, as good as he's been. He's also dropped some interceptions. I want to see Rod Moore get loose for some more. That's probably the thing I want to see the most, is when you're able to create so much havoc, let's start getting some turnovers and short field.
Especially against a team that is turning the ball over a little bit in Michigan State. So I think Michigan should be able to do it. And yeah, again, that's a huge part of the defense. It's a big part of, I think, how they can beat in Ohio State. You saw that work again. I mean, the only shot Iowa had was they did force a couple turnovers and certainly that one touchdown. And that's what you need to do to beat those big dogs. And yeah, again, Michigan didn't turn the ball over a ton last year. They're not turning it over a ton right now, but so you'd like to certainly see that turn around.
And I also think you'll see, I flip it back the offense real quick. I mean, getting some guys back healthy and more fresh. I mean, Blake Corum, especially when Donnie Edwards was out, Blake Corum is strong enough. He's an ox, and he can take 30 carries a game, but it does kind of take its toll on you. Similar situation to Chase Brown in Illinois. Getting that bye week, getting full 2 weeks of kind of just recovery, getting your body fresh. I think you're going to see this Michigan team kind of fly around. Dill, I want to get to the pick. Favorites at home, 20.5 points. It's a rivalry game. I normally don't like touching numbers this big, especially in a rivalry game. You touching Michigan 20.5 to cover?
I mean, that's the only reason I would, because it's a rivalry game. Like, I get what you're saying when the rivalry games are close and you see like a 10-point line where the teams aren't evenly matched, but they're not wildly far apart. I think the differential right now between Michigan and Michigan State is so big, and I would like to think Michigan, I mean, they're not going to overlook them. I can't imagine that.
No.
I don't see how they don't just hammer.
Jim says it was 2 full weeks of Michigan State practice. Like, they have this game circled. I really do think Michigan comes in and takes care of business. If I had to pick again, I probably won't be actually betting to cover 20.5 points. But if I had to lean in this game, it would be Michigan to really rout them. This Michigan State team, we talked about it coming in the summer. Like, they lost like when you lose a guy like Kenneth Walker, who was just so important to that offense, was pretty much that offense, you just have some concerns about how they look. The passing defense hasn't gotten any better. I don't really see any point where Michigan State's really pressing Michigan or really challenging Michigan. I think Michigan rolls in this game. I would like them to cover 20.5 points too. I want to blow them out. That'll do it from the fellas. Again, this one highlighted since 12 months ago. It's going to be a good one. If you guys do like the content, once again, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, we do really appreciate y'all, and we will talk to y'all later. Peace.